a public domain story called The Boy Who Brought Christmas, published in 1911. So sit back and enjoy as I read this classic story. I've never read it. It should be interesting. And it's free because it's old. So here we go. Old Man Ledbetter came jolting along the stony mountain road in an ox cart. The tin-tipped ends of the shoestring that confined his pilated beard dancing upon his breast, his hazel whipstock lying at his feet, and a hard, stumpy hand spread out upon either knee to hold himself steady. Without any gee-hawking on his part, his yoked steeds turned at the ford and staggered clumsily into the Genaluska. In midstream, a shallow swirl of water came circling about his feet, but though he may have pressed his hands harder upon his knees, only the precipital preparation he made for a possible submerging was the shifting of his tobacco into another cheek. But from the footlog below, a call, a piping but authoritative, challenged his attention. "Hi, Granddaddy." He didn't cross the log. You reckon he waded the branch. Dixie and me's lost the trail. Gee up! The old man reached for his whip, and soon the sandy terra firma the other side, submissively awaiting his grandson's pleasure. "Here, sir, here." The puzzled Dixie had his nose pressed down to an equivocal impression where the sand of the old road had spread itself through the weedy border. "Now foller, old boy, foller, I say." And there's a picture included in this story. Here's the picture. And it says, "The puzzled Dixie had his nose pressed down to an equivocal impression where the sand of the road had spread itself through the weedy border." So Dixie must be their dog. Okay. There we go. The gesture of the grimy little hand was imperative, and Dixie sniffed along the dried weeds. Then, closedly nosing the ground, circled among the dried weeds. But then, then nosing the ground, circled among the cartwheels, but baffled, squatted, whimpering upon his haunches. This has a lot of old style. They don't write like this anymore. "You all tracking a rabbit, Grover Cleveland?" The old man fastidiously scrutinized both dog and boy. In the North Carolina mountains that were in the time of the story and still are by many namesakes of the great Democrat, but our little hero was recognized far and wide as the child of the party, a sturdy, clear-eyed, true-hearted little mountaineer. The party was proud of him, and no one ever gave him any less of his full Christian name. He was an orphan and grandmotherless. He and his grandfather lived alone with no woman to keep them comfortable. These facts alone would have secured him abundant sympathy from simple-hearted, kindly people. But in addition to these titles to favor, his grandfather was respected as an upright man and one of the oldest and richest residents of the county, owning many acres of land, not the richest quality to be sure, but good as any for enumeration. So for miles around, the child was welcomed into every mountain cabin, and no home so poor that he was permitted to leave it without some token of the owner's kindly interest. A pair of homespun, home-knit stockings or mittens, or a needed patch upon jacket or trousers. He was a small boy to be out in the woods alone with his dog, for though the sunny slopes were warm, deciduous foliage lay rustling or sodden upon the ground, and snow whitened the shaded clefts and hollows of the higher peaks. His soft hat covered only the back of his head, and in front of the fringe of blonde hair bristled aggressively above blue eyes that scintillated. Scintillat. I don't know what scintillated means. With excitement. He wore clumsy copper toed shoes and warm stockings wrinkled about his ankles, the dangling ends of perry colored strings that gathered them showing below the short patched trousers. No, he cried disdainfully, as if he had years ago lost interest in this small game. It's old Santa Claus. Captain Wiley says he's got a den somewheres up in the bald. He's been down to the Pistol Pals meeting house and left a whole gang of things, whole pack of things, and they're going to hang every last one of them to a tree. And Christmas, all the Pistol Pal girls and boys is going to pick him off for keeps. But he ain't left nary a thing for the Methodies or the uh, Presbyterians or Red Bapties or the Yeller Basties. Don't you reckon there's a low-down trick, Granddaddy? He was down here last night again with another pack of things for him, and he came afoot this time for me and Dixie's tracked him. We've done followed his tracks to the ford, but we can't strike his trail on the other side. Get out, Granddaddy, and help us. Yes, Grover Cleveland, Granddad, sure do that for what is kin you. The old man kept a serious face and began a clumsy descent. But what you aim to do when you come on to him? You aim to clean him out? No, I ain't gonna do treachery thing out, he tells me, but I aim to let him on that the Red Baptistes and Yaller Baptistes and the Presbyterians and just as good as the Episcopals and the Methodies is heap better of any of them. You and me as Methodies, ain't we, Granddaddy? And I don't guess he'll think I'm a Storian, do you, Granddaddy? Not if he's as known as I take him to be, he won't. Granddaddy mounted the footlong and steadied himself by the hand rail as he crossed, while boy and dog scampered like squirrels ahead of him. On the other side, he pretended to identify every print the boy discovered as the track of deer, coon, bear, or catamount. There was nothing indefinite that might stand for a possible Santa Claus. He must have waited right smart. There was a disappointed quiver in the shrill treble, so's to throw us off the track. You reckon he kept to the branch as far up as the mill, Granddaddy? It looks right, like he's just crisscrossed first side the branch and then to the other. Anyway, he's got the sleigh up covering his tracks. I reckon we'll have to give it up, Grover Cleveland. Granddaddy's powerful rushed for time today. The old man recrossed the logs, got in the wagon, and started on his jogging way, the boy a quiet, drooping little figure beside him. That's a mighty low-down trick, old Sandy Claus, to take and leave you out, Grover Cleveland. Them Pistables is no countenance critters to be found in these here mountains. If I was the boss of all the meeting houses, I wouldn't have any, just one. So old Santa Claus would have to do 'em all alike. The treble weakened, and the boy glazed off into the woods with suspicious intensity. Now, don't you go on taking on, Grover Cleveland. Maybe you and me can get up a Christmas tree all to ourselves. How'd that do? I reckon old Granddad's about as rich right now as anyone around here. I just sold Copperhead Hill to a mining company and got the money down. $205. For a moment, the old man gloated in silence over his wealth. For among these North Carolina mountaineers, commerce is mostly carried on by barter and cash in hand is a scarce commodity. Pistable's Christmas tree is only just a holly. Gradually, as the new idea had possessed his mind, the limp little head had faced the front again. I clumb out into that fiddle leaf poplar that grows front of the meeting house winder and looked in, and there ain't many berries on it all. That's a heap prettier ones in our woods. Certainly there is, Grover Cleveland. There's 100 white oak gully, and that's just the shape of a yaller pine burr, and shining with berries. You and me take Butterfly and Bonaparte up thar, and we'll haul one of them our holly bushes down to the house right soon, we will. And Pistables has theirs sot up in a box like it growed there. The blue eyes, though encircled with a tale-telling sedimentary deposit, were now lifted brightly to the kind old face, and for Granddaddy there was no retreat. By gum, we'll set up our tree box in the other room like it growed there too. And let's don't jest, you and me. Have it all to ourselves, Granddaddy. Let's have something for Vince Long and Harv Edney too. It's his pa's red Baptiste and his ma's a Methodist, but I reckon Harvey's the biggest part Methodist because he never does me mean. And I'd be proud to put a hymn book on for Sully Jordan. She sings so good, and she tied my toe in turpentine that day I stubbed it. There's Zebulon, old Aunt Dicey's grandson. Looks like he's grown bigger and yeah, he's grown bigger. There's any call for it, but he has troubles yet, just little fellers. Old man Sumter, he shot Zeb's tame deer last Friday, and Zeb and me, we got to it for it was plumb dead, and it looked up to Zeb, and Zeb, he cried sure enough tears, he did. You see, Zeb's only a boy, yet I didn't want him to forget him at Christmas. Yes, Grover Cleveland, we'll have a present on that our tree, Zeb and Sully, for every Methodist boy and girl in Junkaloosa. There can't be more than a dozen of them since old man Simpson and his children and his grandchildren, all his kinfolks left, and Jin the Baptiste, and you can count on their moss and their paws too. But I'll have to depend on you a heap, Grover Cleveland. Granddaddy never did see a Christmas tree in all his life. It's a new institution in these mountings. Now, if your grandma and your ma was alive, they could help us out of this scrape. But he leaned over, trailed his whiplash in the sand, and watched it reminiscently. There's one or two old women I want to remember. There's old Aunt Dicey, and your grandma was always close friends. I believe I'll put a new frock on the Christmas tree for her. Uh, and sorry. And way up in Cutter's Cove, there's Dan Cutter's widow. She and your grandma was girls together, a pretty pair too. I won't pass her by. And just across the branch from her is where old Sam Long's got his family stowed away. Yeah. This is a hard book to read. That is lost my place. They've got his family stowed away. His mother, she's an old stick as there ever was, but they do say that Sam's wife does the old woman mean. So I'll give her a frock just to show them all that she's some thought of. If them old crickers don't see a Christmas tree this year, the chances is they'll die without ever seeing one. Ha, Bonaparte, by gum, if we'd a steam car, we'd have run plumb over Miss Jimson's cow. Pears like she ain't got heart in her to get out of the way. I reckon that poor old somebody ain't got enough for herself to eat, let alone the cow, grandson. You just get over behind thar and heave out that corn that's under that bag of meal. Ain't she Episcopal, Granddaddy? I know she is, grandson, but she's got a whole rotation of stomachs. And when they're all hungry at once, it must give her a powerful gone feeling. I'll put a new frock out for old Miss Johnston. I don't reckon she ever had a store frock in her life, so she ain't so old yet. But what she can turn out of her loom for a frock that'll outwear three of the store kind, but it'll be a change for her. But oh, granddaddy, them pistables is right mean. They are, and old Miss Johnson's a pistable. So she is, Grover Cleveland, so she is. I never thought of that. For a minute, they jogged along in silence. I can't somehow count for that, grandson. That's ours a mistake somewhere. Miss Johnston's a good woman. Anyway, she can't get down the Pistable meeting house at Christmas. She's got to rise it on her leg. Why, Granddaddy, old Miss Johnson can't go anywhere. She couldn't even get to this wagon into this wagon so we all could carry her. I'm feared you're right, Grover Cleveland. Now there's another difficulty. And all them other old women, Granddaddy, how are we going to get down for our Christmas tree and how are we going to get back again? That certainly is a puzzler, grandson. I reckon we all will have to sleep on that. If your mother was alive now, she'd know how to take hold. The old man dropped his elbows onto his knees, doubling himself in sad retrospection, and the little boy slipped off into the seat in an effort to imitate the position. On his knees, holding to the front of the wagon box, he solved the problem. Hi, Granddaddy, he shouted, clutching the old man's trouser legs to help himself to his feet. You and me and you'll stand that our Christmas tree up in the wagon, and we'll hitch Bonaparte and Butterfly to it, and we'll carry it around and pick it as we go. That's the talk, Grover Cleveland. The old man brought on his knee a big empathetic hand covering up two little wincing ones. Your Maud thought of that too. And I don't want to pass any boy or girl's house without stopping, Granddaddy, even if they're pistables. I ain't mad at every one of them, but Wilbell Greenlee. And now I done forgot what I'm mad at her for. I don't aim to lowance you, Grover Cleveland. I aim to let you get a stick of peppermint or horsehounding for every boy and girl in Junkaloosa. I aim to let you show old Sandy how the thing ought to be done. I don't reckon I'll pass any old woman either, Jess, 'cause she's been misled or ginned by the wrong church. It's bad enough to lose your way without being hounded for it besides. What makes the Baptistes and Methodies and Presbyterians and all them, Granddaddy? Was they born that way? You and me was, Grover Lewin. Our kinfolk was Methodies, going way back before the flood, I reckon. But the rest of them, they're mostly just mixins. When I came across the cattle on the mountains, I can tell by the slits around their ears who owns them, but I can't tell what church owns the people round there without meeting Sunday. And I can see the meeting house they're heading for. Have you got any earmarks you know 'em by, Granddaddy? No, there ain't, Granddaddy. Ain't none of them branded that away. What makes 'em different, Granddaddy? It's the way they believe, grandson. The Methodies, they believe in free grace and sprinkling. The Baptistes, they believe in sousing. And Presbyterians, they're right mean they are. They believe in election. Mighty nigh every somebody around here went election and voted that Tuesday, Granddaddy. So we did, grandson, but this year Presbyterian election is something different. It's a powerful, low down kind of election. I reckon it's favoring. Gonna leave that out. Okay. After a few seconds for this theological seed to sink deep in, the old man went on. Them Pistables, I'm feared I'm a little in the dark as to their belief, but they must be mighty good scholars, for they can read like lightning. They can read a psalm so fast, and common folks can't take in the sense of what they're saying. And there's another good thing about them. They do reverence in the name of the Lord on Sunday service. They bow considerable low when they come to it. Only it does look like they don't all carry their reverence around with them a week a days. There's Captain Campbell. He can cuss considerable, and he doesn't do no bowing when he calls in on the name of the Lord a week a days. Hi, Granddaddy, the storekeeper's wife. She's a pistol. And Monday, when she's scooping up a pound of crackers for me, some mice run out of the cracker box, and she just hollered out, "For the Lord's sake!" And she didn't bow, and she didn't look solemn, airy one. Grandson, I read their third commandment a heap of times, and I can't see as it provides for any weekday privileges or indulgences. When a man's cussin' mad, tain't so powerful ill for him to bat out the devil's name about some. But Grover Cleveland, don't ever go trifling with the name of the Lord. That's uncommon low down, that is. And there used to formerly only one kind of Baptist here, and they worshipped in the old red church. But old man Jordan, he got his back up, and he took all his people away, and he built another church and painted it yaller. You see the whole mountain of timberland that he was glad to get cleared off. And his sons run a sawmill, and there's a big bed of yaller ochre right there in his house. He was smart enough to set them all to work. Well, they were red hot mad. If he had given them time to cool off, that yaller meeting house never would have been built. They did cool off before they got chimberly up, and to this day they're trying to praise the Lord with their stovepipe a sticking out in winter. There's too many kinds of old Sandy to get round them all, the little boy persistently returning to his first sorrow. Sometimes it looks to me like there's too many kinds for the Lord to get around to them all, grandson. There's some big cities where there's more kinds than we got here. There's two or three kinds of Methodies, and there's free will Baptists and holiness, and all seem to be working for the same end, only they can't agree to work together. But of course, people's got a right to be all religious differences they can pay for. But here in Junkaloosa, we're too poor to have so many churches. How did we get to be so many kinds, Granddaddy? 'Twas zeal, Grover Cleveland. That's another point where Granddaddy ain't exactly clear in his mind. Zeal must be a good thing. St. Paul owned up to it, and he had. Yet I reckon zeal's like electricity. It's powerful power, so good as long as it's kept in its leaders. You let electricity go raring around promiscuous, and it'll rip things all to flinterations. 8 years ago, we had just one church in Junkaloosa, and we had a preacher all to ourselves. We didn't let him starve to death or freeze to death. Airy one, he lived there in my log cabin, and he had his own roasted ear patch and a garden and orchard. He had a horse of his own, and there wasn't a cabin in any of these mountain gullies that he didn't know his way to. There, but by and by, folks' different beliefs came settling around here. It was all powerful pious, and they was all bustling with zeal, each one with his own religious denomination, as they called to it. And well, I never could contrive how they done it. But tollable soon there was 5 different churches in Junkaloosa, and no more religion than there was before. Less pulling and hauling, and each one trying to get ahead of the other constitutes religion, which I'm doubtful if it do. And more than that, there ain't enough work nor ham or homily and enough in Junkaloosa for more than just one preacher. Them question of yours has set me to studying, Grover Cleveland. So Granddaddy folded himself together and studied the rest of the way, while his grandson, making the most of his brief authority, yelled so conflicting commands at the puzzled oxen as they took their head and in due time drew their rattling old wagons safe into their home barnyard. A scarlet bearded holly, fresh from the forests of North Carolina mountains, is a Christmas tree, the wealthiest church in Christendom might covet. Such a one our heroes fixed upright and firm in the shackly old farm wagon. It seemed to grow from a soil deeply top dressed with the corn fodder. The resources of the one little store at the village were meager, but the genius of the decorators was not versatile. Granddaddy chivalrously intended for the old woman to have the best, and in his eyes, a new frock was a princely gift. And for the old men, what's so appropriate and acceptable as a paper of plugged tobacco? And at this stage, his ingenuity was exhausted, and his grandson did the rest. If there was anything that Grover Cleveland liked better than candy, it was more candy. Though he was unlearned in the letter of the Golden Rule, its spirit was inherent in nature. So, although the storekeeper had laid in an extra supply for the holiday trade, it was all in sticks, the kind in vogue when grandmas were little kids. When our small Santa Claus had made his purchases, there was none left in stock by the time material for 7 calico gowns had been measured off. The storekeeper, among whose mental endowments this commercial instinct was not prominent, had persuaded himself that it was a crying injustice that a well-filled shelves that he had been so proud of should be in so depleted at one purchase. With much chagrin as pitiful, he watched his opportunity, and when Grover Cleveland, who was toting his packages from the store to the wagon where his grandfather sat, was gathering up his last armful, he called to him in a rear window. "Do you see that our woman toiling up the mountain with a poke on her back?" "Yes," cried the child, "and she's got a little boy with her heap, even littler than me." "That woman's your Aunt Calony, and that our little boy's your own cousin. Don't you think one of those cackler frocks ought to go to her and some of that candy go to little Jakey? Why, he's named after for your granddaddy." The loyal little grandson turned dispiritedly, only saying, "She's done granddaddy mean. And that little our feller's shoes is the raggedest you'll ever see." This last remark was flung after the boy, who was making a rapid exit. The Ledbetter homestead was some distance from the high road, behind a screen of hills, and from an old shed into which the afternoon sun shone with uh, warm approval afforded privacy for the trimming of the tree. Though one pair of hands trembled with age and one with eagerness, as early as the 22nd of December, it stood in glorious completeness. The calico frocks, tightly rolled and tied with twine, swung from the stoutest branches, while twigs bore the fruit of plugged tobacco and candy in wasteful and bewildering abundance. 23, 24, 25, counted the tired little Santa Claus as he lay in his bed that night. 3 eons these days seemed to him, and he sighed himself off to the land of Nod. The old man, too, slipped smoothly off to sleep, but he sighed as he went to think that time flies so fast. Dixie took no note of time, but before morning he took note of a bear that came nosing around the premises, attracted by the smell of sweets, and he barked so frantically as to bring the old man to a spot armed with a musket that had seen service in '61. Bruin retired from the scene with a leaden Christmas gift under his hide, and Grandpa wrapped himself in a tattered cloak of army gray and patrolled till morning. He had hardly felt equal to 2 more nights of keeping guard. So he said to his grandson over their early breakfast, "This is a mighty pretty day, and it might rain at Christmas." So they made their itinerary at once. And though they were subject to some delays, Granddaddy remarked as he groped for his gloves in a wood box among dish towels, frying pans, and broken dishes.
How's it going?
Come join us. My lovely Anne is here. We're reading a Christmas story here.
Hello.
It's the boy who brought Christmas.
Okay. You want some coffee already?
A cup of water would be nice. Coffee
Okay.
too. I'm a little thirsty.
Okay.
We're actually live right now. We're live.
Okay.
The story
Yeah,
is
guys. Yeah.
the story's a little bit tricky. It's written kind of in classic Southern English.
Enjoy reading. I'll be
The
right.
story's a bit longer than I thought it would be. Actually, this story's kind of long.
Then maybe you can,
Oh my
later.
God, this thing goes really long.
Yeah.
Tell you what. Oh no, it stops here. Okay, how many pages are there for this thing?
Okay.
Tell you what. Let's see.
I'll put in some coffee for you.
Yes, thank you. Live TV. It's quite the thing. Live video. Okay. This story's kind of what in Korea the kids would call no jam. No jam means something is boring, basically. Let me just summarize what's happened. Basically, a kid is being raised by his grandfather, and they live in an old time southern USA community, and most of the people are really poor, but his grandfather has some land, and he's made some money selling some of it, so he's decided he buys a bunch of gifts and he's going to share them with the town. You know what? This thing is kind of boring. Let's go to a more traditional story. I'll just go over and see how it concludes here. All right. But Grover Cleveland wasn't ready to go home yet. Tugging at Lucia's skirt, he pined timorously, and it'd be wild good while I'm a living, probably, and it only disliked the thought of dying that inspired his improvisation. But Lucia and the rest took it all up with their heart. It will be good while I am living. It is good enough for me. All right, I'm going to change our story to a more classic one. The 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. Let's switch to that, because this thing isn't that good. Okay, 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. Okay, I'm using the website Project Gutenberg. It's a really good site. It has all the public domain stories. All right. Here we go. As soon as my wife gets back, we will read this together. Okay. 1 second. Let me see if I can get my Santa hat for this one. Just stay tuned. We'll be right back. Okay, Ann, I'm going to read a classic story. I want you to join me for this one. Oh, this is the copy's done. Join me in the class. So I'm going to read a real classic, but it's not very long.
Okay.
Bring your Santa hat, too.
And we're not finished because
I know, we're going to finish this real soon. Yeah, come on. We're doing live broadcast. Yeah.
I know.
Okay, all right. My wife's going to join me. We're going to do 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. I'm going to put on a Santa hat for this. Okay, we'll just wait until that all gets done. As soon as she gets here with a cup of coffee, I'm going to read this. This is a classic Christmas story. This is probably the classic. This is probably the story that established Santa Claus. It's not very long.
Okay.
This is kind of the story that established the modern Santa Claus as a character. So, we don't have any viewers now, but this will replay.
Yeah, sure.
All right, you probably heard clips of this before.
Mm-hmm.
All right. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house Not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were all nestled, all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mamma in her kerchief and I in my cap had just settled our brains for a long winter's nap. When out in the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. Away from the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters, and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new fallen sloe gave the luster of midday objects below, when what to my wondering eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. With the old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be Saint Nick. More rapid than eagles his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dancer, now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donner and Blitzen, on top of the porch to the top of the wall. Now dash away, dash away all. As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle, mount to the sky. So up to the housetop, the coursers they flew, with a sleigh full of toys and St. Nicholas too. And then in a twinkling, I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. I drew my hand and was turning around, and down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. I'm gonna wait for her to get back. We're gonna learn about Santa here. Hope you're all having a Merry Christmas. Okay. All right, here we go. So Santa's come down the chimney. This is kind of the earliest modern Santa depiction. It's kind of where all the modern Santa stories come from.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So here, this is our real introduction to Santa. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. Peddler's like a merchant. Yeah. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up in a bow, and the beard of his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. His belly shakes.
Just like jelly.
And he's a smoker. They kind of leave that out of the stories these days. He smokes a pipe. The smoke goes around his head like a wreath.
I see.
Such the illustrations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, these days.
Okay.
Yeah, over here in Korea, actually, they like if you're watching a TV show and someone is smoking, they'll actually blur out the image of the cigarette on TV.
Right. Yeah.
And it's actually a problem because, like, a lot of the classic Christmas, like we watch Frosty the Snowman, and Frosty, it's part of the song that he has a pipe anyway. And so we were watching the classic Frosty things on DVD, and I was saying they couldn't show this here in Korea on TV.
Think cigarette advertisement is banned actually.
But even just appearing in the TV shows is banned, right?
Right. Yeah. Directly showing the maybe.
Yeah. So I don't think. So you'd have to edit. Banned. So you couldn't really broadcast Frosty because the entire episode he's got a pipe in his mouth.
Okay. You want me to read a little bit, or?
Yeah. Sure. Okay. Anyway, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay.
All right. I have a battery pack hanging from the back, so I'm going to kind of hold that battery pack in place. All right.
Yeah, you can drink and take a rest a little bit.
It's just coffee.
Continuously read. Yeah. He was chubby and plump, a bright, jolly old elf, just like him, actually. And I laughed when I saw him, in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread.
No, nothing to fear.
Yeah,
Don't be
dread
afraid.
means
Yeah.
fear.
Don't be
Yeah.
afraid. He's a
Mm.
nice guy.
Right. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work and filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk, and laying his finger aside of his nose, and giving a nod up the chimney, he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team, gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a
Thistle.
thistle.
It's a type of plant.
I see. But I heard him exclaim
Air.
ere he drove out of sight, Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night.
Merry Christmas. Okay. Okay, I'm going to do another classic Christmas one. This one's a short one
I
also.
think, yeah, you're running out of time, I guess.
We got time. I got 20 more minutes.
Oh, you still have a 20 minutes?
I'm going to do an hour-long video for the folks here.
Wow. Wow, 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 wow.
Okay. Wait a minute. This one comes from the Brothers Grimm. Like they want to do all the classic Cinderella and Snow White and stuff like that. This is like Grimm's fairy tales. Okay. This one's called The Elves and the Shoemaker.
Let's see.
Okay, it's not a very long one. Okay, I've seen cartoons of this one before, but I don't think I've ever read it before.
Okay.
All right. It's not very long. Okay, The Elves and the Shoemaker. There once was a shoemaker who worked very hard and was very honest, but still he could not earn enough to live upon, and at last all he had in the world was gone, save just leather enough to make one pair of shoes. Then he cut his leather out, all ready to make up the next day, meaning to rise early in the morning to his work. His conscience was clear and his heart light amidst all his troubles. So he went peacefully to bed, left all of his cares to heaven, and soon fell asleep. In the morning, after he had said his prayers, he sat himself down to his work, and when, to his great wonder, there stood the shoes already made upon the table, the good man knew not what to say or what to think at such an odd thing happening. He looked at the workmanship. There was not one false stitch on the whole job. It was all so neat and true. It was quite a masterpiece. The same day, a customer came in, and the shoes suited him so well he willingly paid a price higher than usual for them. And the poor shoemaker, with the money, bought leather enough to buy 2 pairs more. In the evening, he cut out the work and went to bed early, that he might get up and begin betimes the next day. But he was saved all the trouble, for when he got up in the morning, the work was done ready to his hand. Soon in came buyers who paid him handsomely for the goods, so that he bought leather enough to make 4 pair more. And he cut out the work overnight and found it done in the morning as before. And so it went on for some time. What was got ready in the evening was always done by daybreak, and the good man soon became thriving and well off again. One evening about Christmas time, he and his wife were sitting together on the fire, chatting together, and he said to her, I should like to sit up and watch tonight, that we may see who it is that comes and does my work for me. The wife liked the thought, so they kept a light burning and hid themselves in a corner of the room, and behind a curtain that was hung up there, they watched what would happen. And soon it was midnight, and there came in 2 little naked dwarfs as they sat themselves upon the shoemaker's bench, took up all the work that was cut up. They began to ply their little fingers, stitching and rapping and tapping away at such a rate that the shoemaker was all wonder and could not take his eyes off of them. On they went till the job was quite done. The shoes stood ready for use upon the table, This was done long before daybreak, and they bustled away as quick as lightning. The next day, the wife said to the shoemaker, "These little rites have made us rich, and we ought to be thankful to them, and I do them a good turn if we can. I am indeed sorry to see them run as they do, and indeed it is not very decent, for they have nothing upon their backs to keep them off the cold. I'll tell you what, I will make each of them a shirt and a coat and a waistcoat, and a pair of platoons into the bargain, and you do make each of them a little pair of shoes." The thought pleased the good cobbler very much. One evening, when the things were ready, they laid them out on the table instead of the work that they had used to cut up, and went and hid themselves to watch what the little elves would do. About midnight they came, dancing and skipping, and hopped round the room. And when they went to sit down to their work as usual, when they saw their clothes lying out for them, they laughed and chuckled and seemed mightily delighted. They dressed themselves in the twinkling of an eye, and danced and capered and sprang about as merry as could be, till at last they danced out the door away over the green, and the good couple saw them no more. But everything went well with them from that time forward as long as they lived.
Okay. So I guess for the sake of audience, I think they need to know this. They need to have a script to understand this story better. To be honest with you.
Hmm.
So
You can always, if you just look up the elves and the shoemaker,
yeah,
if you type that into Google, it's public domain, it's free, so you can actually find
yeah, you
this.
can give audience some information about that. So the first story was about what?
First story was not that good.
Okay, what's the title?
The boy who brought Christmas.
Uh-huh.
I had never heard that story before. I
Okay.
just found it as I was looking up free Christmas stories that I could.
I see, I see. So you never read this
No,
story
it was
before?
terrible. It was actually terrible.
I see. But the story was pretty long, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of cut off?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
The story
I
is
see.
what you would say in Korea, no jam.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't fun. Yeah.
Now, the opposite of no jam is it honey jam or full jam? How does that work?
꿀잼. Yeah.
Full jam.
꿀잼 means honey jam, like 꿀잼. Yeah.
Full jam. But you can
Yeah,
also
it's
say
very
honey jam.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Twas the night before Christmas is honey jam.
I
The
see.
boy who brought Christmas is no jam.
I see. Yeah. The Elves and the Shoemaker. What about this one?
So.
Okay, just so.
I've seen animations of it before, but I've never read the actual
Okay,
story.
when did you see the animation?
I don't know. It's just
When you were
random
young,
ones.
or?
Yeah, it's not considered a real classic, but it's.
I see.
It's not a major story.
Okay,
But
through the YouTube or?
no, as a kid, they broadcast it on
I
TV.
see. I see. Yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah. These days, I think I don't know. On TV, they didn't show many like Christmas animations anymore. I guess.
It's kind of
I mean,
sad.
especially in Korea, like yeah.
But Christmas is getting bigger here in Korea
It
these
is
days.
getting bigger, but they actually don't show any like Christmas animations much, because I don't know, because there's some other ways to, I mean, enjoy it, such as like Netflix or other OTT service.
Yeah, we
That's
went over
why
and
maybe.
I went over and bought a big DVD set of a bunch of the classic American.
Yeah,
things.
actually, you could actually introduce that.
Now
video.
those are not public domain. Those are very much.
No.
under
We can
copyright.
show, and then there are some. Yeah.
We were
great
watching
classics.
we were watching the big classics, Frosty the Snowman, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and I showed her the Charlie Brown Christmas.
Right.
What do you think? Now, the Charlie Brown Christmas is considered a real classic, and you had never seen it before we met, right? So I want you to summarize a Charlie Brown Christmas.
Oh, no way.
You can. It's a simple story.
Charlie Brown, I mean, is pretty depressed around Christmas time, and the reason is that like Christmas was too commercialized, he thought, and even like Christmas tree or like a really shiny kind of plastic,
Aluminum.
aluminum stuff. So where's a real Christmas tree, like so everybody just decorate just plastic, shiny aluminum stuff, and then finally he found a really kind of very young, small, real pine tree for the Christmas. So he just cherished that plant, and then he just brought it back with him, and then he put. He usually kind of uh, I mean takes blanket
His
with him.
friend Linus does that. Actually,
Sorry, I got
that's
confused.
okay. Actually, he takes the tree
Yeah,
back there because he's directing the Christmas play.
Right.
And when he and his friend Linus, who has the blanket, they find the tree and they take it back.
Yeah.
And how do the kids react when they first see it?
No. I think they thought it's a strange.
They laugh at him and mock the tree.
Yeah, and also the
Linus, and he shouts out, "Does anyone know what Christmas is all about?"
Right.
And then Linus
for the play. I mean, is it a school play?
I guess.
Yeah. I mean, show the what the real Christmas is all about, and then they just think about the Jesus and
Linus recites a passage from the Bible,
right,
and then Charlie Brown feels better.
Feels better, and he realized the true meaning of the Christmas. So
but then just when he's feeling better, disaster happens. What happens when he tries to decorate the tree? The tree bends over and he goes, "Oh no, I killed it."
Actually other friends came over, and then they just, it could be nice, to decorate, some ornament, and then they actually make
Linus wraps his blanket around it.
Right.
It's Linus's cherished possession is his blanket. He said the tree needs some love, so he wraps his blanket around it.
And then it it becomes a real kind of a Christmas tree.
And then Charlie Brown he had walked off in despair, and then they start singing Christmas carols.
And then he was really kind of moved.
They all yell, "Merry Christmas, Charlie Brown!" They start singing "Hark the Herald Angels Sing." And it's good.
There was Charlie Brown's Christmas story, I guess.
Okay, well, let's go over and we watched the really classic Rudolph thing. So everyone knows the song Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, but they turned it into a full-length TV Christmas special.
Right.
So summarize that one for us.
I'm not sure about that, but we all know about the famous a reindeer song. Actually, he was born with a red nose, and at first his dad tried to hide that. So he actually the red reindeer just kind of put on the cap, and he was trying to just hang out with the just normal reindeer, and he wanna try to mingle with them, but he always just felt kind of different from the rest of the reindeers, and then he thought, I'm kind of strange,
a misfit.
Misfit. He thought, and
meanwhile
he made a.
Meanwhile, while that's going on, there's the elf. That also. There's a girl. He's attracted to.
So the female deer is like a
doe.
And then the male deer is a buck. And then.
But the doe's father says, "No, you can't hang out with red-nosed reindeer."
Because he's a little misfit. But actually the doe, likes the
Rudolph.
Rudolph a lot, and then she kind of encouraged him,
There's a really cute musical number. There's always tomorrow. It's a real sweet, sentimental song. And meanwhile, while this is all happening, there's an elf who's unsatisfied making toys. He's got a strange dream in life. He wants to be a dentist, and his supervisor is like, "What are you doing? Elves aren't dentists. Elves
Yeah,
make
yeah.
toys."
Yeah, and also you are really, really misfit. And he said, "Oh, yeah, I wanna be a dentist, but because I can't be." And then he was really disappointed, and he flew over to the kind of misfit island.
Well, kind of. First of all, the two of them both basically leave town together,
Okay.
and then they meet up with a prospector who's in a quest for silver and gold. And there's a huge musical number, Silver and Gold.
Yeah.
It's the music is amazing in the show.
I
So the three of them, this prospector named Yukon,
Mhm.
and the elf is named Herbie. Herbie, Yukon, and Rudolph set off, but there's a danger they're facing.
Kind of this monster just chasing them actually, but I mean the
Yukon saves them by breaking off a piece of ice with his pickaxe,
yeah,
and they float off to the island of Misfit Toys.
Right.
Explain that.
Okay. Misfit Toy, so they just wanna live there for a while, but actually the ruler of the Misfit said, "Oh, only toys are entitled to live here, but if you
can get Santa,
can get Santa come here, then you could stay for a while."
No, you could get Actually, he says they can stay the night, but he's hoping he'll get Santa to find homes for the toys, and then. So they're going to leave, but Rudolph is concerned the snow monster is going to hurt his friends, so he sets off on his own. Then he gets back to Santa's village and finds that his mom and dad and the girlfriend have set off looking for him because they all feel sorry. Well, the girlfriend never was bad to him, but the mom and dad feel sorry for what they did. And so turns out they've been kidnapped by the snow monster.
I see. But fortunately, I think Santa found the
not exactly. No, Yukon and Herbie saved them.
Yeah, and then after that, like Santa found that your nose is bright. You can be the guide of the
well, actually, well, there's a little bit. Yukon and Herbie trick the snow monster getting out and throw a rock on top of him. Then Herbie does his dentistry thing and pulls out the snow monster's teeth so he can't be a threat anymore. And then it looks like poor Yukon the prospector dies falling off a cliff with him, but it turns out he survived the fall. And then so everyone all meets together and everyone's happy for a moment, but then it looks like the weather is going to force Christmas to be canceled. But then what happens?
Christmas is canceled.
Was going to be canceled.
Yeah, but the Santa appears.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they all Santa put all the misfit toys in.
Well, first of all,
and then,
the weather. They can't leave because of the weather. But then Rudolph.
Yeah. Rudolph was Rudolph has a very bright nose. So Santa said, you can be a good guide and you can just push back all the snow.
No, but it can his light guide the sleigh.
Yeah, guide the sleigh. So yeah, he's a kind of a leader of the sleigh, and then
Then they go to the island.
Yeah, go to the island, and then Santa just put all the toys into his sack, and then he just bring back to those all to the kids. And then the kids love misfit toys.
We assume. We actually don't see the kids.
Right.
It's kind of funny that instead of going down the chimney, this Santa he has a simpler delivery. He gives them umbrellas and they float down on umbrellas.
I think it's time to wrap up because
we're going to teach some students actually.
Right.
So this is actually our classroom right here, what we're teaching.
Yeah. Okay, guys.
Well, and We love
Yeah.
Christmas time. This
Yeah.
is our third Christmas together, and we like
Yeah.
doing this.
So, I mean, next time we can maybe make a more useful,
Yeah.
kind of organized
We like to do comedy
stuff.
usually, but this
Yeah.
one we kind of did a more serious video.
Mhm.
And right now nobody's watching it. We sure hope we catch some people on the replay.
Okay.
So everybody, thank you for listening and have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.